So we are at James chapter 5 verse 12. Marami pong mga komentarista would put verse 12 together with verses 7 hanggang 11. So it makes verses 7 to 12. Marami pong iba, they would take the verse 12, treat it as it is by itself, and others will put it as an introduction dun po sa verse 13 hanggang verse 18. But this time, yung po ating pag-aaralan, we will treat it separately. Titignan po natin itong verse 12 by itself. And also, we would not miss yung pong argument ng book by only looking at this verse. Hindi ko po sinasabi that by looking at verse 12 alone, ito po yung summary ng book. We're not saying that. I believe that in our culture, even most of us, if not all of us, we all have struggled with honesty. Hindi ko sinasabi that we intend to lie, na sa tuwing umaga po na tayo ay gigising, we have the resolve na today, I will lie. Hindi ko sinasabing ganun tayo. I'm not saying that when we wake up today, I will not be honest. Pero ang gusto kong sabihin is that sometimes tayo po ay careless sa ating mga salita. In effect, it brings us to trouble. And we live in a society, dito po sa mundong ito, in our time, in our days, we live in a society that this culture expects us to lie. Ina-expect po ng ating kultura that we would lie. Kung tayo po ilabas sa mundong ito, there are structures, meron pong mga pamamaraan that are put in place because society expects us to lie. So as a Christian follower of Christ, we need to make sure that we are completely truthful. And we need to be completely honest. And that's the main point ng ating pong pag-aaral. We are to be truthful. Have you ever heard of the story about the boy who cried wolf? Sino po sa inyo ang familiar doon sa kwento ng the boy who cried wolf? One, two, not much? Listen to this, kung hindi po kayo familiar. Meron po isang bata who was a shepherd boy. Siya po ay isang pastol ng mga tupa. At siya po ay nandun sa burol ng village habang siya po ay inaalagaan niya yung mga sheep ng mga taga-village. Para po siya ay malibang sa kanyang sarili, because siya po ay bagot na bagot doon sa kanyang pagbabantay, rintin lang niya yung mga tupa, sabi po niya, sumigaw po siya ng wolf, wolf. Sinabi niya na yung wolf daw ay hinahabol yung kanilang mga tupa. Sinigaw niya ng sobrang lakas hanggang sa marinig ng mga villager. And of course, kung narinig po nila, itong mga taong to ay agad po silang sumugod at tinignan po nila kung nasan yung wolf. Gusto nilang paalisin yung wolf dahil sa kanila po yung mga sheep na yon. Pero nung sila po ay dumating doon sa burol, they found no wolf at yung pong bata was laughing sa itsura po nitong mga villagers na ito. Sabi nila sa bata, don't cry wolf when there's no wolf. And so bumalik po sila sa kanyang tahanan. Later on, sumigaw po ulit yung bata, wolf, wolf! The wolf is chasing the sheep. Siya po ay tuwang-tuwa. Nung makita niya, nang muling tumatakbo itong mga taong bayan para habulin yung wolf. At nung nakita po nila muli, wala pong wolf. At yung bata ay tuwang-tuwa sa kanyang kalokohan. Bago po matapos yung kanyang araw, he saw a real wolf that prowls doon sa mga sheep. And so, with all his might, with all his voice, he shouted, wolf, wolf. Ngunit yung pong mga tao sa village thought that he is just playing another joke. And so, wala pong pumunta doon sa hill. And pag baba po ng araw, tataka yung mga tao sa bayan, bakit hindi pa bumabalik yung kanilang sheep? And so they went up and they found the boy at siya po ay umiiyak. Sabi po ng bata, meron pong totoong wolf. At yung flock has scattered. why didn't you come? Sabi po ng mga tao, hindi po nila alam kung ano sasabihin. They tried to comfort itong bata and they said, we'll help you look for the lost sheep in the morning. And he said, nobody believes a liar even when he is telling the truth. Naalala ko po as a child na kwento ko na before, I've used as an introduction yung aking pong need to sleep, di ba? Sa hapon na patutulugin ako at sila po ay aalis. Naalala niyo ba yun? So, mayroon pang continuation yung kwento na yun. Kailangan ko matulog sa hapon, but I really love to play outside. Yung po aming community is not subdivision, ito po ay quote-unquote village, pero technically yan po ay tapat namin na iskinita lang. So kung maingay yung mga bata sa labas, ay talaga marinig na rinig hanggang doon sa aming tahanan. Ito po yung panahon na wala pa po, hindi pa uso yung cellphone, hindi pa po namabot yung internet sa aming bakuran. At yung pong laro namin is really outside. Everything was dirt, everything was sweat, diba? And everything is fun. Unfortunately, yung pong mga matatanda, yung pong mga adults, sila po ay mahilig mag-siesta sa hapon. And so kung sila ay mag-siesta, dapat ikaw din ay mag-siesta dahil walang babantay sa'yo. So, bilang isang bata po, ayoko pong matulog. Gusto ko pong maglaro. And so, syempre, hindi ka pwedeng lumabas. Gusto natin kailangan mong matulog. Kahit naririnig mo yung mga bata. But what I would normally do, ay hihiga po ako sa kama. Kasama po yung aking, sino man po yung nandun, lola ko, yung tatay ko, for maybe about 10 to 15 minutes. And ako po ay nakatalikod dun sa kasama ko sa kama. And the reason being is for them, para hindi po nila malaman kung ako ba ay gising or tulog, di ba? I would know na sila ay tulog. Kasi maririnig mo naman na tulog, di ba? Parang napaka-ironic, naririnig mong tulog. So, pag nakatingin ka sa oras, ang tagal ng oras, di ba? Pero roughly 15 minutes, I would stay there, and as I near the 15-minute mark, I would stretch yung aking pong mata. As if na ako po ay bagong gising. So ako po ay bababa, ako po ay merong paa ng pusa na sobrang dahan-dahan. Kasi pag yung bahay nyo, yung sahig nyo ay kahoy, di ba? Isang maling apak ay may tunog, di ba? Of course, bilang bata, alam natin kung ano yung mga iiwasan mong apak, di ba? And so bababa ako, but I would expect na yung lola ko ay nasa baba. And so as I near the door, I would scratch my eyes, and may kasama pang ate, at siya po ay magtataka, ang aga ko daw nagising. The point being is nakatulog na ako, yun ang aming sasabihin. And I would go out because I have already slept. How many of you have done that before? Pwedeng hindi po about sleeping, pwedeng nakabasag kayo ng gamit sa bahay, but saying that it's not me.
Wala nang susi.
Wala nang susi? It's not me? Ilan po sa atin? So this is why it's important. We struggle with honesty to a certain degree or another. Kung titignan po natin yung statistics, sinasabi po ng statistics that by the age 4, 90% ng mga bata would have learned the concept of lying. By age 4, 90% of children would have learned the concept of lying. And base po sa ilang studies na ginawa before, it has been estimated that 60% of all the adults, 60% of all the adults, na kung sila po ay may makikilala na bagong tao, they cannot have a 10-minute conversation with that person without telling a lie. At doon po sa 10-minute na conversation, the average lies na kanila pong sabihin is around 2 or 3. Okay? And I pray that we're not that bad. Siguro, meron sa atin 1 or 2. Pero kung In a 10-minute conversation, 60% of adults will tell a lie. Meron pong temptation for us to do the same. And ito pong struggle with lying began in Genesis chapter 3 when the devil said, "You will surely not die." And ito po ay nagpatuloy even John chapter 8 verse 44 where it says, "The devil is a liar and the father of lies." Sa ating pong bansa, just last night I told Sister Wendy na sa Sabado we will try to vote. In our country, it's the time again to exercise our democracy. Kung bubuksan po natin yung ating mga Facebook account, marami pong links that talks about sa mga kandidato. Some of them are true. Most of them are fake news. Hindi ko po alam kung sino yung inyong sinusuportahan this coming election. Perhaps si Ate Lenny, alam mo kung sino yung kanyang sinusuportahan. But I would like you to consider prayerfully, hindi po ako makakampanya, I would want to make this sermon political, but I would like you to consider prayerfully, as much as possible, kung sino po yung inyong iboboto. Consider the track record of those people. If hindi niyo po sila kilala personally, of course, wala naman sana nakakalala sa kanila personally, might as well do some research about the person. Tingnan po ninyo kung ano yung kanilang na-accomplish. Let's also consider yung mga anomalies, yung mga scandals na kanila pong kinasangkutan. Ano po bang klaseng mga leaders sila nung sila po ay nakaupo? Of course, tuwing panahon po ng election, marami pong mudslinging, marami pong batuhan ng putik, maraming labasan ng dumi, maraming pag-blackmail, maraming vote buying. But I'm just fascinated sa isang statement ng isang kilalang tao who says that the law does not require our senators to be honest. The law does not require yung mga tumatakbong senador, hindi sila daw ay maging honest. Sabi po nung taong to, all people, or lahat ng mga kandidato, they all lie. And so honesty is not an issue, sabi niya. So would you think that we have a problem with honesty? We have a big problem with honesty. And this is where we are. James chapter 5, verse 12. Would you stand as we read in reverence to God's word? James 5, verse 12. But above all, my brothers, do not swear, either by heaven or by earth or by any other oath, but let your yes be yes and your no be no, so that you may not fall under condemnation. Let's pray. Father, we thank you for this afternoon. Salamat, Panginoon, sa kabila ng aming maliit na bilang, you have given us the resolve to be here. You have given us the resolve to be gathered among your people, to practice and exercise, Lord, our fellowship with one another as we have fellowship with you, Father. Lord, thank you for reminding us. Maaring napakasarap na matulog, lalo na ngayong hapon na medyo makulimlim ang panahon, Lord God. But it's you who is our desire, Lord. We're not doing this, Panginoon, for ourselves, but ultimately, Lord God, we want this to be an expression of our worship to you, for we know the God whom we are serving. And as we look at this issue, Panginoon, of swearing, of honesty, of lies, Lord God, help us, Panginoon, as Christians to be truthful in everything that we say, in everything that we do. This we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. So we have one verse this afternoon. We'll just walk through the verse. Isang verse lang po ito, and then we will look at some applications sa ating pong buhay. James says, but above all. Above all. Ito pong above all, I don't take this to mean na ito po yung pinakamahalagang part ng letter ni James. Okay? Hindi ko po sinasabi that, nung sinabi niya above all, for 5 chapters, this is the most important. No, I don't take it to mean that way. Imagine po ninyo, ano po ba yung mga sinasabi ni James for the 2 years na ating pinag-aaralan ng kanyang letter? He says, be doers of the word, not hearers only. Chapter 1. He says, keep yourselves unstained from the world. He says, submit yourself to God. Love others. Lahat po itong mga bagay na sinasabi ni James are all important things. So I don't believe na ito pong niya ng above all says that this is the most important part ng kanyang letter. Marami pong commentators would say na ito pong above all is a transitionary device na ginagamit po ni James as he moves dun po sa conclusion ng book. As he moves to the last part of the book, he uses this propanton in the Greek as a conclusion for the book. Ngunit sa iba pong letter sa Bible, ito pong Greek na propanton is not used as a conclusion to any letter. So, this would be an isolated case kung ito po yung gamit ni James dun sa word na yun. So perhaps what James is doing here in this last section ng kanyang sulat is he is really connecting verses 7 to 11 dito sa verse 12. What he's really telling us, he's talking about our speech. That we are not to be disgruntled, we are not to grumble to others, we are not to complain, but we are to be patient in suffering. And bilang part po ng ating pagiging patient in suffering is to be patient and accurate about our speech. Being patient and accurate about our speech. Normally, what we do pag tayo po ay nasaktan, pag tayo po ay naagrabyado, we say things that are exaggerating kung ano talaga yung nangyari. We are not true, we are not accurate in our words. So above all, in everything that you say, let us make sure that our yes is yes and our no is no. And that we have honesty and integrity in our speech. He says, above all, my brothers. Pansinin po ninyo yung tone ni James dito sa kanyang section na to. He's not condemning us, katulad po ng kanyang pag-condemn sa wicked rich na pinag-aralan natin sa verse 1 to 6 ng chapter 5. He's back to the tone ng my brothers as he has continued all throughout the book. And so, yung kanya pong tone dito, again, is one of love. His tone is one of love. It's one of those whom are not worse, but it's one of those who are struggling with issues. So, he is admonishing itong mga taong to, brothers, come on, let's be honest. Let's be truthful in what we do. And he says, above all, my brothers, do not swear. Straightforward. Hindi po siya nagpapaligoy-ligoy. He's not beating around the bush. He tells us what we should do and how we should do it. And he says to us, do not swear. Now, by do not swear, hindi po sinasabi ni James dito yung swearing na ibig sabihin po ay pagmumura or cursing. Hindi po yung sinasabi na do not curse, or hindi po yun yung swearing na kanyang sinasabi. It's not saying, James is not saying cursing, it's not saying foul language, vulgar language. Pero hindi rin po yung sinasabi na okay lang yun. Okay? Gusto ko pong makuha niyo yun. Yung pong swear na ginagamit ni James, it's not about swearing, cursing, magmura ka, magsabi ka ng mali o ng masama. But hindi rin niya sinasabi that that's okay. Yung swearing po na sinasabi ito is the same word that we use in our title, oath. Telling something to be true. Hindi po niya sinasabi na it's okay to swear. Yung pong foul language, yung vulgar language, yung cursing. What he's talking about is swearing that guarantees truth. Or swearing as if making an oath. Alam po natin that swearing or cursing is also wrong. It's also sin. We understand that out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So kung lumalabas po sa ating mga labi or bibig, iwasan ko yung... So lumalabas sa ating mga labi are vile, are filthy, are vulgar words, then it shows na yung condition po ng ating puso is also vile, vulgar, and filthy. Kung lumalabas po sa ating mga labi are hate-filled words of anger or rage, pinapakita po nito that yung ating heart is also filled with hate and anger and rage. Kung iisipin po ninyo, it's actually a grace and mercy of the Lord that He allows yung pong ating speech to come from our hearts. He allows that our speech would come from our hearts so that we hear the words that we say, and in our minds we know we can judge by what we say what the true condition of our heart is. It's God's grace and mercy that the words that comes out from our lips are technically from our hearts. That as we hear the words na ating pong sinasabi, we would gauge ano ba yung condition ng ating mga puso. Paul tells us in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 29, "Let no corrupting talk come out of your mouths, but only such as is good for building up, as fits the occasion, that it may give grace to those who hear." So brothers and sisters, let's test our words. James says, "But above all, brothers, do not swear. Do not give an oath that says, 'This is true.'" Think about it this way. Kung from that point ng room hanggang this point ng room are all the speeches that I say, okay? Lahat po from that hanggang to, ito po yung representative of everything that I say. And the words from here until here are words that are true, okay? And the words from here to there, may or may be true. But as long as I'm here, I can swear to you, I can tell you, I promise you that all my words from here are true. You can trust me on that. Pero kung ako po ay nandito sa side na to, or nandun sa kabilang side na yun, pwedeng check nyo muna sa Google kung true. I don't know. Ano po yung sinasabi nun about me? Well, straightforward, that I'm not a trustworthy person. If I make an oath that says a certain portion is true, but the other portion is not, meron pong dalawang problema dun sa oath na aking sinabi. Pag ako po ay nangako or nag-oath or nag-promise na yung kung aking sinabi ay totoo, then yung ibang words na aking sasabihin na walang premise na promise this is true, it may or may not be true. And there's two problems with that. Number one, kung yung portion ng aking speech, out of all the speech that I make, at kinwalify ko po yun, na sinabi ko that is true, like, bago ko sabihin, meron akong qualification that, totoo to I swear, I promise over my dead body. Meron pa yung gorgeous, pero, as God is my witness, diba? Over my mother's grave, I pinky swear, cross my heart, hope to die, pex man, mamatay man. If I do that, in that portion of my speech, it means that I'm a double-minded person. Because the rest of my speech may or may not be true. Ano ba? If I swear on some statement, then it says that other speeches that I made may or may not be true. In fact, I don't really seek to make it completely accurate except for the portion that I promise to be true. And we've seen in the book of James that James already condemns double-minded persons. Diba? James chapter 1 verse 8. James chapter 4 verse 8. And he tells us that we are not to be double-minded people. We shouldn't even think about our speech and say, when I promise, I have to keep it, but if I don't promise, pwedeng hindi ko i-keep because I didn't promise. And of course, there's another problem with this. Pangalawang problema po nun, if we swear on our words, the second problem is, swearing, yung pong oath-taking, creates an expectation of lies. Swearing creates an expectation of lies. Sabi ko po kanina, we live in a culture where they expect you to lie. That's why, kung tayo po ay papatawag sa kongreso, or tayo po ay magiging witness sa korte, they have to swear us before we give our statement. Kailangan po natin gawin ito and ito, di ba? And we promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. At kung hindi po natin gagawin yun, if we give a false testimony before a judge, and we have violated the law, we will be perjuring ourselves. And tayo po ay magkakaroon ng penalty. Sa tingin po ninyo, why is it that society know that we lie so much that they have to make you take an oath on the Bible, typically? So that what you're going to say is true. See, society, ito pong mundo natin, they know that we are lying so much that they would have to make us swear. They would have to make us make an oath. So that yung po ating sasabihin is true. Simply because there is an expectation of lying. And here, James is telling us, brothers and sisters in the Christian church, brothers and sisters in the evangelical world, brothers and sisters at the Christian church of the Great Commission Global Ministry, it should not be so. It should be not that we have to say, this is true. Hindi po natin kailangan sabihin lagi kung ano yung sasabihin natin, itong sasabihin ko, totoo to. We don't have to do that. It should be that everything we say is true. All of the words that come out of our mouth have the intent of being accurate, of being honest, of being true. So do not swear, period. Hindi mo kailangang mangako na, Pexman. No, because every word that should come out from our mouths should be true. James says, do not swear, either by heaven or by earth or by any other oath, but let your yes be yes and your no be no, so that you may not fall under condemnation. If I don't tell the truth in everything, how is it that my gospel witness is going to be believed? How is it that I am going to be a faithful ambassador of Jesus Christ? How is it that I am going to be testifying of the mercies of the gospel and people believe me if they know me not to be a person of the truth? Yung ating pong testimony is at stake. Perhaps we have read or heard of tales when a man's handshake and a man's word is all that you need. How good would that world be? Like everything that you say is true. But we have never lived in that day. We live in a day when person-to-person communication is always initiated or prompted or parenthesized by promising, by swearing, by making a vow. Tayo po ay nabubuhay sa isang panahon where people would join together, take marriage vows, and yet get separated, annulled, or divorced at a rate that is highly increasing. Marami pong mga naghihiwalay. In fact, ito pong rate ng paghihiwalay is so high that many people don't take the marriage vow at all. They just move in together because marriage vows make it more difficult to break up. And they don't have any intention of being with that person for the rest of their lives. And that is not a Christian behavior. We live in a society where even in Christian institutions, ako po ay gumraduate elementary sa isang Christian school, and I also worked at a Christian school where we give out contracts. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying, even in this world, everywhere we give out contracts. Why? Magkuha ka ng phone, you have to sign a contract. Kuha ka ng loan, you have to sign a contract. Why? Because there's so much distrust. There's so much deception. Such questioning that it has become the culture of the society to give contracts and to be bound by contracts. Hopefully, sa ating pong munting iglesia, we would not need those kinds of things. We just have to say, yes, I will pay. Yes, I will work until this day. We don't need to have contracts among Christian brothers and sisters. We have handshakes. We have mutual agreements. Our word is our bond. Pag sinabi mo, that's it. Do it. Hindi na po natin kailangang mag-pass through doon sa lahat ng language that actually no one understands except the lawyers who wrote it. That is the type of society that James is appealing for. True honesty, true character, true compassion, and love for one another. Brothers and sisters, let's all be true for the gospel of Jesus Christ. Let's all be honest and so truthful in our commitment to Christ, not for our sake, but for His sake. So that kapag yung mundo looks at us and the world sees what's happening, the world doesn't look at us and say, look at them. No. The world looks at us and they say, these people are weird. These people are weird. And there's a reason why we are weird. There's a reason why we are truthful. There's a reason why we do this. The reason we are weird is because we believe a guy who went on the cross, who died for our sins, who went to the grave, who got back up and conquered death and sin. He arose and went to heaven and is coming back one day again for us. And all this stuff is because of Jesus Christ. We can be truthful, we should be truthful, because we are followers of Christ. The God who called us is the God of truth. Jesus Himself says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. The Spirit who indwells in us is the Spirit of truth. And this is the gospel message that we have. Our identity in Christ should not cause us to be as if we are of the world. We can be truthful because we follow the one true God. Let us be a people who live life in that way. Let us be a people who are honest husbands and wives who stick together through the good times and even through the bad. Let us be honest fathers and mothers who are wise in what they tell their children. Let us be workers who are honest and have integrity in the office or in the home so that we stand apart. So that all people that tell the lies, yung mga kasama natin sa trabaho, perhaps they tell the lies and they look at us, they point to us, and they don't like it because the light that is shining is so bright. It's the gospel of Jesus Christ. And that their sin becomes more evident. And I hope this is something that we long for. Not only in my own life, but for all of us. That we would be committed to the gospel of Jesus Christ. We all know, ito pong tinuturo ni James sa chapter 5 verse 12 is something that he learned from Jesus Christ Himself. There is a comparison that I will show you between Matthew 5, kung sa binasa ni Sister Josephine in our text. Matthew 5, 34-37, James 5, verse 12. Jesus says, but I say to you, do not take an oath at all. James says, but above all, my brothers, do not swear. Jesus says, either by heaven, for it's the throne of God. James says, either by heaven, or by the earth, for it's the footstool of God, or by earth, James says. Or by Jerusalem, for it's the seat of the great king. And do not take an oath by your head, for you cannot make one hair white or black. James says, or by any other oath. He gets the shorter version. And Christ says, let what you say be simply yes or no. James says, but let your yes be yes and your no be no. Anything more than this comes from evil, so that you may not fall under condemnation. You can do that by yourself. So we see that James is merely repeating what Jesus has said. Kung titingnan po natin yung larger statement ni Jesus sa Matthew chapter 23, if you have your Bible, turn to that. Matthew 23 from verse 16 onwards. Ina-address po ni Jesus yung culture that's happening ng panahon na yun. Matthew chapter 23 verse 16. Nung pong panahon na yun, in that culture, people would say, if I'm going to swear by one thing and not the other, then I can get away with it. Ang society po ng mga tao, if I swear on one thing and I don't swear by this thing, I can go and get away doon sa aking swearing doon sa isang bagay na. Okay? So, ako ay nangako sa ngalan nito at hindi sa ngalan nito, I can choose to not do yung aking promise. Kailangan ko lang maging honest kung I have sworn on a very specific thing, and these people even made a game out of it. Matthew chapter 23 verse 16 and following. It says, "Woe to you blind guides who say, if anyone swears by the temple, it is nothing. But if anyone swears by the gold of the temple, he is bound by his oath." Pag meron daw nangako in the name of the temple, he can choose not to follow through on sa kanyang promise. But if that person swears by the gold of the temple, then he is bound by his oath. Verse 17 says, "You blind fools, for which is greater, the gold or the temple that has made the gold sacred?" And he continues, verse 18. "And you say, if anyone swears by the altar, it is nothing. But if anyone swears by the gift that is in the altar, that makes he is bound by his oath." It's the same thing. And he says, verse 19, "You blind men, for which is greater, the gift or the altar that makes the gift sacred?" Verse 20, "So whoever swears by the altar swears by it and by everything on it. And whoever swears by the temple swears by it and by him who dwells in it. And whoever swears by heaven swears by the throne of God and by him who sits upon it." So James is saying what Jesus had said before. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. Now we have to ask the question. Ibig sabihin po ba nito that James rules out all kinds of oaths? So ipinagbabawal ba ni James lahat ng klase ng oath? Of course, the answer is no. Modern commentaries would say absolutely not. Hindi po sinasabi ni James that we are not to take an oath if we go to the court. Hindi po yun ang kanyang sinasabi. What he is talking about is the issue of honesty. Pero hindi po ito yung case historically. Kung titignan po natin ang church history, we will see that some Christians, the Anabaptists, the Mennonites, the Quakers, lahat po sila, they would refuse to take an oath in court. There are some others who would not live sa city, would seclude themselves so that they would not be forced by the society to take an oath. Meron pong mga bansa that they require military service. And so para sa mga tao to, when you go to the military, you swear. And so they would separate themselves from the city. Because, according to them, Jesus says, and also James does, is that they are not to swear an oath at all. What does James mean in this passage? Meron lang pong very small minority that contends James is saying no oaths at all following Jesus. Ngunit alam po natin for sure that every careless word we utter, we will be accountable. Matthew chapter 12, 36 to 37. So he's not saying that we should not swear, we should not tell an oath. What the point being is that we should not say things that we cannot follow through. You're not to make with false witnesses sa ating pong mga pananalita. So how does this apply to our lives? How do we look at this and say, let's be wise? Quotable quote. To be truthful in our communication, we have to be careful what we say. To be truthful in our communication, we have to be careful in what we say. Bilang isang husband and a parent, or once a child, I've learned this lesson. I would say to Sister Nikki, or perhaps ang mga bata, although hindi mo nila naiintindihan, that this weekend we will go to such and such. This night, we will go to such and such. And life happens, something occurs. Where is the such and such? I might invite you somewhere, we'll do something fun, like, bowling. But life happens, something occurs. Nasaan yung bowling? We should be wise in what we promise. So here are things in which we could apply this text. Number one, we must not overpromise and under-deliver. We must not overpromise and under-deliver. Sometimes we are prone to this. Lalo na kung we are trying to impress someone. Kaya mo yan, kaya mo yan. But when time comes, we can't deliver. And there's also a wrong flip to that. We must not under-promise and over-deliver. Sometimes we are watering down kung ano yung kaya natin gawin. Para pagka we accomplish something, we look so great. Di ba? Hindi, kaya ko lang gawin. 1, 2, 3 lang eh. But, truthfully, in your own self, in your mind, you can do 1 to 10. And definitely, you will do 1 to 10, but you will just promise 1 to 3 because pag ginawa mo yung 1 to 10, I look so good. Ang galing ko, di ba? We must not overpromise and under-deliver. We must also not under-promise and over-deliver. We should not make promises that we cannot keep, promises which are outside of our power. We must be wise in the words we say. Number 2, we should avoid trying to show someone prideful, arrogant communication. We should avoid trying to show someone prideful, arrogant communication. How is that? This is how it happens. We exaggerate our stories so that it would be more funny and more people would laugh at us, and that exaggeration quickly turns into lying. And the next thing that we know, we are telling a story that we know is not truthful or not accurate because we are leading others into the laughter or into the believing that you are better than that who you really are. We are telling stories, we exaggerate stories, pinapalaki po natin yung kwento to the point that we want these people to laugh at us. At ito pong ating exaggeration would lead into telling a story which is altogether not accurate and truthful. Because gusto po natin that people would laugh and think that we are better than who we really are. This is prideful communication that exalts the self rather than exalts God. Number 3. I think this is the most important thing. We should learn to be silent sometimes. We should learn to be silent sometimes. We must learn to be quiet. Just don't say anything. If someone asks you a favor, minsan, hindi na natin iniisip kung kaya ba natin o hindi natin kaya. We just say yes. And we put ourselves in trouble because as we say yes, we realize that we cannot do it. Sometimes it's better to stay quiet and be silent and think about it. Sabi nga nila, less talk, less mistake. Wow. Ano makalitan? Less talk. Very good. Number 4. This is I think the last. We should, as workers, meet deadlines. We should, as workers, meet deadlines. Hindi lang po sa trabaho, even sa mga sinasabi natin sa bahay or anything. We should meet deadlines. We should have integrity in the hours that we work and give reports and the reports that we give. Kung ang pasok po natin is 8 to 5, anong oras po tayo dapat nasa office? Diba? Praise God, 7:30. We should be there from 8 to 5. We should have integrity in our work. If you're paid from 8 to 5, we should work from 8 to 5. Kung hindi po natin ma-meet yung deadline, na sinabi natin that we are trying to accomplish by that day, then we should apologize sa ating mga boss for not keeping our word and not meeting that deadline. Isipin po ninyo yung pleasure ng isang amo, ng isang boss when you say that you're trying to accomplish something that you cannot accomplish, and lalapitan mo siya and say, I'm really sorry, I did all I could. But I can't. I should not have promised that. I couldn't deliver. I apologize for not being completely honest in all my communication. I will get this done over the weekend and you will have it on your desk Sunday morning. Sa isa pong employer, to have an employee that desires to do things that are well, to be completely honest and trustworthy is good. You went to your employer because you are honest and you have an integrity. You're trying to make a stand. That is the difference. The world just doesn't care. Hindi po ito popular sa mundo. And as Christians, we should have that integrity to be straightforward and honest. How do we qualify yung ating pong mga lie? We pinky swear, pinky promise. We swear on our mother's grave. Hindi natin ginagawa yun sa ating mga Pinoy. Sometimes we cross our fingers behind our backs when we say something para meron tayong escape clause. But I crossed my fingers. Or we say that I was just kidding. I didn't really mean that. Think of the most common lies that we do. Ano ba yung mga pinaka-common na lies na ating ginagawa? There's something that we all did, and I'm sure of this. How many of you have checked the box that said, I have read and agreed to these terms?
Always.
We don't want to lie, but I'm telling you, I didn't read that. We don't want to lie, but I can't. And itong agreement na to just pushes us to lie. We met somebody, they say, how are you? And we say, I'm fine. No, you're not. What about our Facebook profiles? How much of what we write on the About section are true? The level of salary in our first job. How much we spend on something. Sometimes when I buy things, and tatanong naman ng asawa ko, magkano yan? I come to realize it's better not to say anything. Oh, I shouldn't have said. Sometimes, you will lower the price para hindi siya magalit bakit gumastos ka na naman ng gano'n. But I think Next time it's better just to say nothing.
Be silent.
Yeah. I'm learning. What about our past stories? Yung stories ng ating accomplishment when we are bragging, kapag kinikwento natin kung ano yung ating mga nagawa sa buhay. How much of it is true? And how much of it are only exaggerations? What about when we are trying to sell things? Sometimes we oversell yung mga products na yun, telling people things that are not true about the product. What about bragging about the past things that we have done in our sinfulness? What about addictions? Sex, pornography, drugs? I hope wala namang nag-drugs at some point. Hindi ko alam. What else? Why we are late for work? Traffic eh. I was praying and I got carried away. Filing for sick leave when you're not really sick. Hindi ko na kayo patataasin ng kamay. Baka magkakalaman. Lying about our spiritual life. How often have we done quiet times? How often do we pray? How often do we memorize scripture? Pag po tayo ay nasa mall, at tayo ay may hinahanap, tinignan, at meron pong makulit na salesman, o sales lady, so what we do is we go away and we say, balik kami when you don't really go back. Nung tayo po ay mga bata, we lie to keep ourselves away from trouble. And of course, ngayon tayo ay matatanda na, some things never change. We still lie to keep ourselves away from trouble. What about saying an apology when we don't really mean it? Sabihin mo, I'm sorry, but you're not. What about if you're on the other side of that conversation? What about accepting an apology? Your apology is accepted, but I'm not going to forget about this, or I won't ever forgive you. I love you when you really love yourself and you're only using those words to get what you want. Isa pa. I'll pray for you when we really haven't prayed. Perhaps the best thing to do is if someone tells you, pray mo. Why don't we just stop and pray right now? Instead of saying things that we are not really intended to do. Sometimes we lie about our priorities. Bukas mag-gym na ako. We even deceive ourselves. And it's a struggle for all of us. James tells us that your yes be yes, and your no be no. Mark Twain tells us, if you tell the truth, you do not have to remember anything. Papanood na mas mga palabas yan, that they are, meron silang accomplished, na ito yung kasabihin natin, paano tayo mahuli? The more that you tell a lie, the more deep you're burying yourself. Exodus chapter 20, verse 16. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. Proverbs 12, verse 19. Truthful lips endure forever, but a lying tongue is but for a moment. Proverbs 12, verse 22. Lying lips are an abomination to the Lord, but those who act faithfully are His delight. Ephesians 4:25. Therefore, having put away falsehood, let each one of you speak the truth with his neighbor, for we are members of one another. John 8:44. You are of your father, the devil, and your will is to do your father's desires. He was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks out of his own character, for he is a liar and the father of all lies. John 14:6, Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Brothers and sisters, today perhaps we need to confess to one another and to God. And perhaps we have to commit that we will do better in our struggle against our sinful nature which tempts us to lie. Let us be so honest that we are weird to this culture. Let us let our yes be yes and our no be no, so that we are not condemned or found guilty. Let us pray. Father, it's a challenge for us to be true in our words. It's indeed hard at times, Panginoon, to follow through on what we say. And yet, God, we are reminded, because we are in Christ, He is the truth. We are of our Father, God the Father, who's the Father of all truth. And as Christians, we are indwelt by the Spirit of truth. We are reminded, Panginoon, that we should be truthful in all of our words. Father, help each and every one of us. As parents, Panginoon, that we would not make statements which are unwise. Help us, O God, to make our words, our decisions to be wise. Give us wisdom, Father. As workers, Panginoon, give us this integrity, Panginoon, the resolve to have an honest work life. Father, that the people who are surrounding us would see that we are different, and indeed we are different because of what the gospel of Jesus Christ has done to us. God, remind us that every word that comes out from our mouth is from our hearts. And we can gauge, Panginoon, yung kondisyon ng aming mga puso base sa kung ano po yung lumalabas sa aming mga labi. God, we know that we will be accountable for every word that we have spoken. God, we pray that you would help us as we aim to be truthful, as we aim to be honest, and as we aim to be a people of integrity. And we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.